All right, so welcome everyone. And it's obviously very challenging and uncertain times that we all have at the moment with COVID-19. So I really want to thank you all for taking the time to attend. Um, I'll just kick off with my presentation, my webinar. Roughly about 45 minutes is what I'm aiming for. And there'll be plenty of opportunity to discuss issues and answer your questions as well. So firstly, just like to say thank you for attending. I know everyone's very busy. There's a lot to come to terms with COVID-19. Lots to do, lots of additional work I'm finding that most people have to grapple with. So really thank you for your time this morning. All right, so just some very quick housekeeping before we get into the presentation. Firstly, you'll probably notice that you are all on mute. Now, the best way for us to have conversations and for you to ask questions is through your chat box. So if you haven't already, open up your chat box and just say hello, especially for the ones that have just joined. Just let me know how you are this morning and that you can see the presentation okay. And during the presentation, I'll be more than happy to answer questions. If you want to make comments about anything I cover, if you have any questions, I'll do my best to answer them as I'm presenting, but I will have plenty of time at the end for an open Q&A forum as well, where I can unmute you and we can have more of a discussion. Hi, Angie. Hi, Susan. Dom, good to see you. All right. So let's get into it. So very quickly first, I'll just give you a quick introduction to who I am. Quite a few people on the call may already know me, but many don't. So I'm a trained accountant. I've been running my own business coaching firm for 15 years. But even prior to that, I've been working with businesses and helping them improve their business, understand what's happening in their business, what's working, what's not, and how to fix it. I'm part of a group called Chan Naylor. Chan and Naylor are a national accounting, advisory, and finance group. And I actually head up their business coaching division nationally. So I've got my own independent business within their network. So I effectively use their branding, use their name, work with their clients, but I have my own independent business, and I definitely work with people who are not part of the Chan Naylor group. So the key areas that I focus on is really strategy, planning, productivity within a business. So that's both business productivity, but also team and individual productivity. And also just understanding what makes the business tick and what makes it profitable and how to improve that profitability. I work with both small and large businesses across the country and across different industries. And my focus is really to help you to fish rather than to fish for you or to hand you fish to feed yourself. So you probably have heard that analogy, you know, teach a man to fish and he'll be self-sufficient forever. And that's what my focus is. It's really to help my clients understand how to improve their skills, improve their habits, improve their knowledge about business, the tools and the techniques they need to use to implement in their business to make their business run better, and ultimately so it is more profitable, easier to run, and more fun as well, because we know how difficult and challenging business can be. All right, so before I keep going, what I'd like to do is find out who is on the call and who's on this webinar by, if you can just enter in the industry that you're in, you know, the sort of work that your business does, and how many staff you have, because I know there are some people on here who have, you know, just themselves in the business, which is perfectly great. But I also know there's probably larger businesses in the group as well. So I'd just like to get an understanding so I can help tailor my message and my strategies to those people. So if you can just open up your chat box. Okay, here we've got Andrea, education, 8 staff, excellent. Saul's recruitment and career mentoring, great. Shalana, I know. Jeff, property investment, excellent. Brendan, technology to hotels, 3 staff, great. Kevin's a consultant, management consultant. Deborah's a BAS agent. Who else do we have here? Shelley, I know, who runs an escape room in Penrith. Jenny's in publishing. Joseph has 9 staff, engineering supplies, great. John is education consulting. Dom, I know, excellent. All right, so there's a wide range, different industries obviously, and generally smaller businesses with between 1 and probably 10 or 15 staff, so that's good. All right, thanks for that, everyone. All right, so this is my overview of what I'm going to cover off today. So I want to firstly recap on what's happened over the last 6 weeks, and it feels like a lot more than 6 weeks, the amount of work that we've had to do. So I want to recap on that quickly and just put that into perspective for everyone. Then I want to talk about what are the next 4 phases that we can expect over the next few months. I'll share with you 5 key actions to help you maximize the business profits and potential that you have. And it is all about setting a course for the future. I do feel that, what we've experienced over the last 6 weeks, everyone's had to scramble, everyone's had to adjust quickly, respond, and hopefully things are settling, and I'll explain why in a minute, but it would be good to get your feedback on that as well. Then I'll share with you some services and tools that I use that I'm happy to share with you and talk about how I can help you going forwards as well. And I will be talking about the different programs that I have and the different services. So I just want to be upfront about that because I do want to be able to help people as much as I can for those that need it. And I'll share a free gift with you at the end as well. All right, so let's get into it. So firstly, before I do go through a recap of the last 6 weeks, just want to share this quote from Charles Darwin, and I think we all know Darwin's theories, the survival of the fittest. And he says it's not the strongest of the species that survives, nor the most intelligent, but the one that is most responsive to change. Okay, and I think that is entirely apt for business as well. We all need to respond, we need to adapt, we need to be able to change, and things will be different after all this is over. Even as things ease and get back to normal, everything's going to be different. We'll be seeing people walking around with masks. There'll be less personal contact. People will be working from home a lot more, using technology to meet, to do business, a lot more home deliveries, all of those sorts of remote types of things. Who knows what else will change, but I think we can all agree that there will definitely be a lot of change even after this pandemic is over and we are, there's less social distancing, and we need to be able to adapt to that. So it is about learning how to do that, being open to change and help and getting help from others, learning from others to do that as well. All right, so let's just recap on the last 6 weeks. Here's my my quick timeline of what has happened. I'm not going to go through all of these point by point, but it all started, I suppose, in the middle of March, where the federal government stimulus announcement was announced, and also there was restrictions starting to be placed on public gatherings. But if you have a look at that timeline, you'll see that nothing's really changed since the end of March, and we're already the 23rd of April. And I know this week there's been a lot more activity around JobKeeper, registering for that, applying for it, all of that type of thing. But I think if we look at the last 6 weeks, the first 3 weeks were crazy. Lots of change, lots of announcements always happening, lots of things to come to terms with. The last 3 weeks, there's been less change, and I know businesses have been settling into a bit of a flow. And sure, there is still those businesses that are experiencing a continuous slowdown, and they're trying to work out what to do with their staff, and they're reducing hours even more and that type of thing. But on the whole, I think people have accepted that there's not going to be any further restrictions. And if anything, there is noise now being made about easing those restrictions. So a couple of examples of my clients. I work with a landscaping client, and I was speaking to them earlier this week, but also last week, and they have had an influx of leads. They have got plenty of work coming through, plenty of opportunities. I also have a client who runs a retail store, homeware store in Glenbrook, here near Sydney. And the first 2 weeks of April, he said, were dead. And the last week, he said, it's been amazing. It's been like Christmas. And maybe people, obviously people want to get things done at home while they're at home, but I think people are also coming to terms with things. They're less concerned, and they feel, well, let's start getting on with things. I also have a client who runs a landscape supply business in the Sydney area, and he has been run off his feet. He said, obviously everyone's at home and wanting to do things, and if anyone's been to Bunnings, it's just busy as. So I'd just like to find out from all of you as I continue. Just feel free to comment and add into your chat box. Have you seen signs of business picking up, or people becoming less concerned and getting into a bit more of a mode where they're going to get on with things? So if you can just let me know, and I'll continue with my presentation. And I suppose the reason I'm sharing this is because I want you to start thinking about the future. We've all been so concerned about responding and making sure that that we know what's going on, we can grapple with it, we've got to make the changes, but it's time now to start planning. So Dom I know is down. He mainly services the corporate market, and obviously all of those corporates are down. Yep, Saul, recruitment, saying, definitely seeing things loosen up at the moment, which is fantastic. And obviously people weren't looking at recruiting, weren't looking at taking on staff in the last 6 weeks, but it's great to see signs that people are looking at that, which is excellent. Who else do we have here? We know hotels have been hit very hard. Yeah. So some people are saying business as usual. So every industry has been affected differently, but I do hope that things are starting to pick up. Andrew is saying business picked up unexpectedly. Increase in enrollment of students. So yeah, let's hope that things are changing. I'm seeing that with some of my clients. All right, so now as part of all the stimulus packages, our team, our marketing team and accounting team put together this infographic. So just let me know if you do want a copy of that, even if you want to just type in now IG for infographic, and I'll shoot you a copy if you haven't already received it. I know I've shared it with my database in the past. Kevin said IG. Okay, I'll go back through these chats later and share this with you. Actually, I might just share it with everyone who's on the call for those that need it. It's a great summary of all the stimulus packages. All right, so let's talk now about what's coming up. What are the next phases? What can we expect over the next 3 to 6 months? All right, now, so this slide here just shows you how things will roll out. Now, no one has a crystal ball, so this is my best estimate of what to expect. So at the moment, we're in this slowdown or shutdown period. Now, some businesses have had to shut down, others obviously have slowed down. And obviously during this whole period, we need to make sure we're communicating openly with our team, suppliers, contractors, and so on, and customers definitely. So what we're doing here is there's personal things we need to focus on, and there's business areas. Okay, so obviously making sure you're okay with your family and coping with kids working, learning from home, and all of that sort of thing, and just trying to stay positive in this period has been a challenge, I know, for a lot of people. But we've also obviously had to show leadership. We've had to really make some big adjustments. Now, I don't want to go through all of these points in detail. It's really just to give you an idea of where things are going, and I will share these slides with you afterwards for you to go through. But the next phase, which I want to encourage people to start moving into, and these phases will happen. Some businesses will embrace these phases, some will stay in phase 1 and then try to jump to phase 4 when it happens, and they won't be ready. Okay, so phase 1's happened. Phase 2 is where we want people to be now. It is about understanding, reviewing the business, reviewing your own skills, what you need to develop, improve personally, but also obviously in the business. just looking at the future direction, reviewing your products, services, making adjustments, but also looking at your marketing strategies, getting prepared for the future and what will happen down the track when the upswing happens. An example of that is I've got a client, an IT client. He's obviously had a slowdown, but still doing fairly well. And luckily, he's had a business that's built up and has plenty of buffer. And I also have another example of a rock climbing gym, a client of mine who, he's obviously shut down, but he's actually enjoying the shutdown period because he's getting time to spend with his family. We'd obviously worked to make sure, he was in a very good position financially anyway, with cash buffers. He's got JobKeeper coming in, so some businesses are actually, not too bad in this shutdown period. But back to the IT client. So he's putting in place marketing strategies. He's discussing. He's reaching out to different marketing people at the moment. I'm helping him with that to work out who might be the best fit for him. And the whole idea is to start preparing a marketing plan, a marketing strategy, start drip feeding, start getting awareness out there about his services. Even though he doesn't really need it, he's always wanted to focus more on marketing and finding better ongoing customers. So we're doing that now, and come probably July, August, after he's gone through that, there'll be a bit of a rise in demand automatically at the end of the financial year for him. That's what tends to happen. But he knows come July, August, he'll need to start marketing. So we're preparing now for that phase. And the rock climbing gym, he's upgrading his facilities. He's doing things now, improving things now. So when things go back to normal, he'll be in a much better shape. So that's where I want you to focus on now. I think it's moving deciding that it is time to plan, time to prepare for the upswing, and I'll share those phases with you in a minute. And during this planning phase, we'll hopefully know when these restrictions are going to end, or at least ease. So the next phase is warming up, and this is where you need to get prepared for the sprint phase that'll come next. So it is about getting prepared personally, getting prepared in the business. Staff might return at this phase where you want to train them up and look at developing those systems, refining those systems, and start increasing your marketing. And at the end of that phase, we'll obviously have restrictions ease. I don't know if they'll end, but they'll definitely ease. And then phase 4 is the sprint. This is where you need to get on the front foot. You need to have prepared yourself mentally and have the energy to really lead the market, jump in there and get ahead of the competition. And if you've got all the preparation done, then you can jump in there when others are still just floundering, or they'll be behind. They could be behind a month or two if they haven't done all the work that you should be doing before that sprint phase. And then after that, hopefully it's business as usual, ongoing growth, where you can start getting more consistency, more of a normal pattern of work, and then all of the other things that you would normally do to improve and develop the business. I'll share some of those with you in terms of how I work with clients and the sorts of models and strategies and tools that we use. So they're the 4 phases. So we're currently in phase 1. The next 4 phases are 2, 3, 4, and 5. And it is about understanding you can't just jump from 1 straight to 4. You really need to get ready for it. All right, so what I'd like to do now is find out what your priorities are. What are 1 or 2 things that you feel are priorities for you in the next 1 to 3 months? And I want to do this because I'm going to share with you some strategies that I think you should focus on. But I want to find out, well, what's front of mind for you, and what were you hoping to get out of this webinar as well? Okay, so if you can just open up your chat box and just let me know that, and I'll read them out. So Andrea's saying upskilling staff, which is fantastic. That fits into those phases that I mentioned. I'm sure others are typing. Deborah says marketing strategies, good. Heike says upskilling herself, excellent. And I'll talk about that in a minute. Brennan says pivoting. Yeah, so it is about looking at the strategies that you have, what's going to happen to the market moving forward. Part of it could be pivoting now to cater just for the shutdown periods and social distancing, but it could also be pivoting to be ready for what may happen longer term as well. Saul says marketing. Jenny's just looking at revisiting how to grow the business and possibly take a different path. Good. Marketing again. Shalana, social media strategy, marketing, and so on. All right, I'll cover marketing and how I think about marketing, which will be good. Yeah, moving from face-to-face consultations to Zoom friendly. Excellent. Cash flow management. I'll definitely discuss cash flow because that's a key skill just to understand your numbers. Diversifying products. Good. Okay, excellent. All right, so let's and I think they align pretty well with the 5 areas that I want to cover off. Okay, so let's cover these off. So number 1 is really getting clear on your strategy and direction. It's all about knowing where you are now, what the current priorities are, what's working, what's not, what your current priorities are, but then also having to think about where do you want to go into the future. Where do you see yourself? Where do you see your business? Whether that is in 6 months' time or 3 years' time, everyone's going to have a different timeline or perspective in terms of time. But it's all about knowing where you are, what the issues are, what the priorities are, where you want to go, and then working out a plan to get there. Okay, and I'll share with you some tools to help you with that. Definitely, as part of that, always. My focus is having a 90-day plan, so a 3-month plan. Even if you've got longer term goals, it's about stepping that back so you've got a workable plan for the next 90 days. So that's what I'd really encourage you to do, is really think about these phases. I'm not sure if they're going to be, whether we'll get to the sprint phase in 1 or 2 months, or whether it might be 3 or 4 months or longer. It's a little bit unknown at the moment. I think all the signs are there in terms of infection rates that we will be freed up sooner rather than later, but anyone's guess. But definitely have a plan for the next 90 days, and I'll share a tool that I use to help with that. And then definitely get everyone on the same page. So if you have a team, I'm a big believer in involving your team and making sure that they know where things are going. It gives them more certainty. Makes them feel less anxious, and it holds you accountable as well, which I'll talk about that down the track. But definitely have something that you can share with them, share the plan with them. But obviously, to be able to do that, you need to have it first. You need to be clear on where you're heading and what the priorities are. So this is my 1-page planning tool. A few of you may have seen it in the past. You can see here that this is the bigger picture stuff. So the top left-hand corner is really long-term big picture, and I'm not expecting people to have the headspace to focus on that right now. But I still use this tool because I want to plant the seed. I want people to know that down the track, when they're ready, it is thinking about the longer term, the 10-year plan, the values that you see is important in the business, and so on. Then there's obviously 3 years, 12 months. And then the bottom part here is where I'm focusing a lot of my attention at the moment with people, is really just having a goals for the next 90 days, who's responsible in the business, or it could be contractors that you work with. So let's say you're on your own and you work with a marketing consultant or a web development company. That could be, you could hand over responsibility and more ownership and expectation to them because they're part of your team. And then obviously having a plan for the next 3 months broken down. All right, so very, very simple stuff. So that's the first area, really getting clear on what the issues are now and where you want to go and how to get there. The second is really knowing your numbers. Now, a lot of you may know that I'm an accountant by training. The numbers are very important to me. And the reason that that's the case is because it allows you to make better decisions. As I've said there, so know your numbers and make better decisions. And I'll take you through some principles that, in terms of knowing your numbers. The first is really understand your financials and review these regularly. So that'll be your profit and loss statement generally, and I'll talk about the balance sheet in a minute, but mainly your profit and loss. If I look at all my clients, the ones that are doing well and there's less variability and more consistency in their business is because they know their numbers, they're tracking their numbers, they understand the relationship between their costs and income and different expenses, what their margins are. I've got a client who, he's got about 30 or 40 staff. Obviously, good business, has made lots of money in the past, but he doesn't know his numbers. He doesn't know his margins as well as he should. And when you've got a larger business, it becomes more difficult to really understand how all the pieces fit together and what numbers you should be tracking, how to make those improvements. So I would encourage you, when you, as soon as possible, immediately understand your numbers so that it's easier to manage as the business grows. And I'll talk about the sorts of numbers that you should focus on as well, apart from your P&L. So definitely understand your numbers. For a lot of my clients, I'll review their numbers with them every month. Secondly is, once you understand your P&L and how that works, then you can start doing some forecasting. You can start thinking about and understanding, if you do certain things now, well, let's say you've got a certain number of quotes that you're doing, you're tracking your activity and you know that activity is good, you can then predict what that will do to your cash flow down the track. And then you can do some scenario analysis. And what I mean by that is, if we did this, what would be the result? And it also allows you to look into the future and make decisions early. So if you know what your cash flow is going to be in 4, 6 weeks, or even 3 months, which some of my clients do if they've got larger projects, if they know what's going to happen, they can make decisions early. So an example is, so I've got a client that manufactures air conditioning ducting and installs it in large corporate and commercial buildings. He obviously has a book of work. He knows what the milestones are, and sure, the builders may not be ready, things may get delayed, but he has a fairly good idea over the next 3 months of what's coming up. And if he knows that there's a month, especially the current month, that is going to be low in invoicing, he'll really focus on which jobs he can finish up or get to certain milestone stages to get that invoicing done. And it really helps him to then manage his invoicing and his cash collection and cash flow. All right. So I've got a cash flow forecast that I use for myself, so I know what's going to happen down the track. If I get a new client, if I lose a client, or if things happen, I can definitely forecast what's going to happen down the track. All right. So I really encourage you to look at that, especially at the moment with JobKeeper, because you need to show that you have a 30% reduction in your revenue compared to the same period last year. And let's say that is the April to June quarter. You obviously need to be able to forecast that and understand, at least at the revenue level. But then I would encourage you to then flow that through down to the bottom line as well. The next is key performance indicators and ratios, and I'll share some common ones that I use with clients, and it obviously depends on the sort of business. Financials are great to look at, but they only really tell you the picture after the month is over. What I really encourage businesses to do is track activity numbers. So it could be number of quotes, number of demonstrations that you're doing, what sort of return you're getting on your marketing, how many leads you're getting every week or every month. And that will then allow you to predict what will happen with the results down the track. So here are a few KPIs that I would recommend. Now, definitely you don't want to implement all of these. Every business is different. I just pick out a few that are relevant to you, but definitely things like, leads, understanding what return you're getting on your marketing. I've got a kitchen client who we engaged with a marketing consultant 6 months ago. We were looking at ramping things up as inquiries started to slow down over the last 6 weeks. And we track all the numbers. We know how many quotes he's done, from which marketing source, whether it's referrals, whether it's Facebook, whether it's Google. We know what the conversion rate is on each of those. And if you've got that information, you can just make so much better decisions. And so what we've realized is that the marketing results, and we've known it for a little while, but it's come to a head, I suppose, that the marketing results aren't what we expected. And now we can show the numbers to the marketing person. She's going back and having a rethink about what we can do to improve those numbers. And I'll talk about where marketing fits into my model in a minute as well. But knowing these numbers allows you to fine-tune different parts of your business, keep people accountable, understand if they're performing or not, whether they're staff, whether they're external contractors or consultants. You really need to know your numbers. So you can see there a few different sorts of numbers: appointments, demonstrations, quotes, production measures around efficiency, throughput, costs of errors, rework, debtors, whether you're managing your debtors properly and collecting that cash, and definitely expenses as a percentage of revenue. You know, how much is your rent as a percentage of sales? How much is your staff cost as a percentage of sales? That type of thing, okay? All right, so lastly on numbers is really just understanding working capital. I won't go through it in too much detail, but it's really some key, they're probably the key areas in the balance sheet to look at around debtors, managing your receivables, managing your supplier payments, not holding too much inventory, and just managing that whole, understanding how that affects cash flow really. So I don't want to go through that in too much detail, but I thought I'd just highlight that as an area for some people, especially ones that are I think there was someone in the engineering space or production, manufacturing, those areas in particular. All right, so that's the second area. It's all about knowing your numbers. And this sort of ties into this next point, which is developing your skills and habits. It's well and good to, you know, be busy in your business, but are you being as productive and effective as possible? And same with your team. The businesses and the people who run businesses that really do well are the ones that are spending the time learning and developing themselves. And it is all about becoming a better business person and better at business in general. Now, this is my formula, and it's not just mine. I mean, a lot of people have used this formula in the past. I just wanted to share it with you. But this is the formula I use for business and life success. Be times do equals have. And have is, you know, we all want results in our business or in our lives. It's not just about doing the right activity. It's not just about having the plan and following the plan. It's about how you think. It's about improving your skills, improving your attitude, being around the right people, which I'll talk about in a minute as well. But it is about developing yourself. Two people can do the same activity but get different results. You know, whether that's a sales meeting, whether it's managing their staff, you know, dealing with challenges in their business. Everyone has similar things that happen, but they get different results because they're different people. They've developed different skills, habits, and attitudes. Okay, so I really encourage you to take this time to develop yourselves. And it was great to see that people on this call, when they shared some of their priorities, it was about developing themselves, developing the skills of their team. The fourth area is really looking for a good support network. Now, especially in these trying times, especially when we're feeling more isolated, make sure you surround yourself with the right people. Now, this is a quote from Jim Rohn. I'd love to hear if anyone has listened to or read any of Jim Rohn's work. Unfortunately, he's died the last 5 years or so. But he is one of the gurus of self-development and business. A lot of the current crop of the Anthony Robbins and those guys learn from Jim Rohn. One of my favorite quotes from Jim Rohn is, "You are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with." So really be careful who you surround yourself with, and make sure that they're people that are positive, that are proactive, that lift you, that motivate you and energize you, instead of the reverse. Okay. No one's made a comment about Jim Rohn. If you've got time, just pop into your chat box if you have read or listened to anything from Jim Rohn. So definitely have that right support network. And I think it's important, not just now, but also into the future. So some people I know on this call are part of BNI, they're part of a local chamber of commerce, they may be part of industry forums. So make sure you review who are in those groups and make sure that they're positive people that are helping you to grow and succeed. And lastly, it's about being held accountable. Now, it's all well and good to have the right strategies in place, but it is about making sure that you're doing the work and getting things done. And this accountability could be from your coach, like myself, a colleague, or your community of your network, or it could even be your team. So I do encourage my clients to share their plans with their team, but also to have regular meetings so that they have some accountability internally. So one example is I'm doing some work with a local not-for-profit, and the CEO of the business is having some challenges with one of his managers. So what we've agreed is that once we agree on the plan with the manager and that she's on board, that we then share that with her team and get them to get involved in that process. And that's partly to keep the manager accountable, so that once she has shared it with the team, then she knows that she's going to be answerable. They're going to have some expectations. Okay. If I can just check that everyone can still hear me okay. If you can just type into your chat box yes. Okay, very good. All right, so they're the 5 areas. And in summary, once again, strategy and direction. So know what your priorities are, where you want to go, and how to get there, and make sure everyone's on the same page. Know your numbers. It allows you to make better decisions, and it'll definitely improve the results you get and your profitability. And I always tell people that numbers are the language of business. And if you want to be able to speak that language, you need to know your numbers. Thirdly was develop your skills and habits and learn how to become better at business. Fourthly is spending time with the right people, and they're the ones that motivate you and that you can learn from. And lastly, be held accountable. All right, so what I want to do now is just share with you the business support services I provide, how you can learn from those and use those, and I'll also share with you a free gift that I want to give to you all at the end. All right, so now I know that a few people did comment on the video that I sent around this morning, so hopefully you've had a chance to watch it. It basically takes you through my business building model. Now, I don't want to go through it in too much detail, but I think I always like to think of business as fairly simple. There are 3 main parts, and they're the 3 columns in this model. The first part is getting the work in the door. The second part is getting the work done and make sure you're getting it done productively and effectively. And the last part is getting paid and getting organized, okay, and just making sure the back office is working. So these are the 3 key columns, and then within each of those, I've got 3 areas that I focus on. Strategy, marketing. Marketing is about generating leads. Sales is about converting those leads. Delivery is about making sure things are done consistently. You've got a good way to manage your team, recruit, induct, and so on. And then making sure there's good systems in place as well. Every good business needs great team and great systems. Then the last area is making sure the back office is working. You've got that strategy into a plan, and you can then share that with your team, and it provides you with the direction. You have strategies to manage your time effectively, and I'll share some of these with you. And definitely knowing your numbers. Okay, so they're the areas I help my clients with. Marketing is an interesting one. So I encourage my clients to really get a really good grasp about all of these. Marketing, which I'll share with you now. There's so much to know in marketing. You really need to be able to work with someone in that area, and understanding the best type of marketing person to work with for your particular business, whether it's B2C, whether it's B2B, the different industry, and so on. All right, so I'll just explain a bit more about this model. So up here is a checklist that I use with clients that covers the key strategies for each of these 9 areas. And if I look at marketing in particular, you don't need to be a marketing expert, but you need to understand the principles. You need to be able to know enough to be able to keep the marketing person on track and accountable. So things like, making sure there's a plan, there's a marketing calendar, you understand the importance of branding, digital marketing, and so on, KPIs for your marketing team, ROIs, the return on investment for the different marketing channels. Also understanding these concepts like lifetime value, acquisition cost. So these are all things that I really encourage people to understand. Now, marketing is just one area. There's obviously a whole heap of different strategies, and it's about just understanding how to implement these over time. You might pick 1 or 2 areas each quarter to focus on, depending on where your business is at. But that's my whole focus with clients, is to really help them improve their knowledge of business and how they can get better results. The next thing I just want to share with you is my process that I follow. So I've got the business building model, and then I've got the business building process. And as you can see here, and I'll take you through it in a bit more detail in a minute, but we have an initial review that we put in place. I set people up on this coaching portal, which I'll share with you in a minute, making sure that you know your KPIs and you're tracking them regularly, growing your skills, and we do that through either one-on-one or group meetings, reviewing your progress, making sure that you're monitoring, we're monitoring that and keeping you on track, giving you support where you need it, and so on. Okay, so the whole idea about the process is you've got a plan at the start. It definitely covers 90 days worth of specific goals and actions, and then in between those 90-day periods, when you reset your goals and review your plan again, you've got the support, you've got the tools, you've got the meetings and everything else to keep you on track. Okay, and make sure you're getting things done. I'd rather have a simple plan, simple strategies, and implement effectively, rather than having a complex strategy that never gets done. Okay, and my program that I wanted to share with you is it's a group program, and I'll tell you in a minute why I have launched this and why I'm really focused on sharing this with people at the moment. Partly it's because it's such a good price compared to my one-on-one programs, which is traditionally how I've worked, and I'll explain how that all works and what the differences are. But I'll just take you through a few of these things. So firstly, this accountability portal, and I'll share with you now so you get a better idea of how it all works. So I've got this portal that I use with clients, and on it we have different projects, different actions. So basically that 90-day plan that we work out, we put onto this portal, and then it tracks how well you're doing. It reminds you when things are due. It gives me reports to tell you whether you're on track, whether you're getting things done. And you can see this was an old one that I set up a while back, so that's why all the dates are passed. But you can see there's different projects, there's different steps and actions within each project. And the other key area is it tracks all of your KPIs. So we work out what the KPIs are that you either need to track every week or every month, and then it automatically reminds you to enter them. So in this case, it's $30,000 a week of work completed, and then it will remind you to enter those and track those. So I've got clients on this who are tracking things like number of quotes they're doing, number of inquiries they're getting, even how they're spending their time. It's a very flexible system. All right, so that's this portal that everyone has access to. Then there's this step about weekly goals and accountability. So I just want to share with you what we're doing there. So I've got a private Facebook page where people post, sorry about that, every week. I'm happy to share mine with you for this week. Every week, people share what their goals are for the week and how they did with their goals for the previous week. Now, I can flick through, you can see people have shared theirs. I won't go through and show you everyone's because obviously we're recording this and I don't really want to jeopardize people's privacy, but that's the whole process. So every Monday, people post their goals for the week, and then the following Monday, their new goals and how they did for the previous week. All right, so that's the weekly accountability system that we use. KPI tracking I showed you in the portal. The private member site. So I also have this this site here, which you can see it's structured in terms of my 9-box model, and in here there's content regarding all the meeting recordings that we have. It's coming up. All the webinars we run, the meeting recordings. It has courses in here that I would encourage you to look at and go through, especially this one here. So there's a business foundations course, 7 modules, takes you through the key areas that you need to understand to really run a good business. And it doesn't mean that you'll have all the skills to implement all of those, but it'll definitely give you a really good big picture understanding of what you need to do. And there's also, success mindset training that I've developed. There's videos, there's handouts, there's Be Do Have, which I've just mentioned to you, and quite a few others. All right. And then there are these tools and templates that I share with clients. Once again, in those 9 areas, and it could be business plan templates, job ads. There's even break-even calculators in there. So there are tools that you can use and have access to as part of the services I provide, whether it's one-on-one or group. We talked about the private Facebook forum, 7-module course, and then if you need additional support, that's available as well. So the main differences between these 3 areas, or 3 different levels of program, this one just gives you all of the group work online through that portal and Facebook group and the website. This one adds in 2 key things. One is a weekly live meeting. So we have a Q&A meeting every week where we discuss issues, where you share ideas with other people, and it's a live meeting where you can speak and hear what others are doing. And also every 4 times a year, I get all my clients together for a quarterly growth day to update their plan. So 2 of those are online and 2 of those are live, where I get everyone together in Parramatta. So that's included in that middle program. And the main difference between that and the last one is this one-on-one meeting. So as part of the scale program, you get a one-on-one meeting every month to review financials, to talk about other issues, and really provide a lot more tailored advice. One of the key things I do there is to review your financials and really understand what's happening in the business. But definitely there's that one-on-one help there. All right, so that's the program. And as I said, one of the key reasons I'm really sharing the program with everyone is that one-on-one coaching that I normally provide it's not accessible for a lot of people. It starts at $1,500 a month. It can go up to $3,000 a month. This is a lot more low cost. It starts at less than $50 a week, and it's really trying to help more people, especially during the current crisis, but also getting them prepared for what's to come in those phases. And that pricing that I mentioned on this previous page is it is discounted for COVID-19 as well. So that's something else I want to do to help people through this process. And it is about having a community of people to share ideas with and learn from, and just really be part of that positive atmosphere. And as that last point says, it gives you direction, goal setting, accountability, reviews your business on a regular basis, and making sure that you're on track with your KPIs, for example. Provides education and ongoing support. All right, so that's it from me. So next steps are, and I'm going to open it up to Q&A in a minute. But next steps are really, if what you've taken on board now and that's you're happy with, then that's perfectly fine. If you do want to talk about the small business growth program, or if you want to just have a chat in general about your business, no commitments. It's basically a free 30-minute business review discussion that I'm happy to have with you. It's a free gift from me to you, really just to better understand your business and just help you through any issues that you might be having. But obviously, if you do want to talk about how I can help you going forwards and whether the program's the right fit, we can talk about that as well. All right, so that's it from me. I'm just going to thank you all. We will open up to Q&A in a minute, but I'm just going to stop the recording prior to that and just allow you to ask questions in the Q&A session that you know won't be recorded.